That's right, we're making cheese that's supposed to grow mold on purpose. And I know how that sounds. The first time I told my husband that I was laying a white fuzzy rind grow on all my cheeses on purpose, he looked at me like I fell out of my rocker and hit every stick on the way down. But that soft, bloomy rind is exactly what makes this cheese so good. Combined with sheep milk, you get an even richer, creamier version, even with skimmed milk. Hello shepherds, welcome back. And if you're new here, hello. This is where we talk all things sheepy. My name's Megan, and today we're transforming the traditional Manchego into a soft, mold-ripened sheep cheese at home. From the milk, to the culture, to that white rind that's actually forming, so you'll end up with something that looks and tastes like something that came from a real cheese shop. If mold on cheese weirds you out a little, don't worry. By the end of this video, you'll actually understand what's happening and why it's safe. This is a micro-batch recipe, which I think makes it all the more fun. It's a really great way to play around with flavors, test recipes out, and have a lot of options for cheese variations at home. So first off, I'm using fresh milk from our flock. If you're using store-bought milk, be sure to be really careful with the brand, stay away from ultra-pasteurized or shelf-stable milk, as well as some brands may still heat treat their milk to just under ultra-pasteurizing temps, which make it impossible for our cheese to make the curds. So may the odds be in your favor. Next up for ingredients, even though it's not common, I like to add a thermoculture as well. The temperatures are cooler for their optimal growth, but I like how it lends a nice texture and subtle flavor to our final cheese, which I'll go into more later. So let's begin by adding our milk to a heavy bottom pot. I like to add my cultures in now as well as anything else, such as the molds, so our Penicillium candidum as well as our Geotrichium candidum can go in now. If you're using store-bought milk, heat-treated, or previously frozen milk, don't forget to add your calcium chloride diluted in some non-chlorinated water. As well as optionally, there's lipase powder for a touch of piquant or sharper flavor, but this is optional. Next up, we're slowly heating our milk in 2 stages. Firstly to 72 degrees Fahrenheit or 22 degrees Celsius, and then we're going to rest at this temp for about 15 minutes. Next, we're going to move to our more target temperature of 86 degrees Fahrenheit or 30 degrees Celsius, and rest it at that point for about 30 minutes. This brief period at different temperatures and different stages help let the lower temperature loving bacteria work at creating their aromatic and buttery notes in our cheese. And then when we increase our temperature, we're working that temp, different bacteria move in and start converting all our lactose in our milk into lactic acid. And this really helps our cheese develop that complex flavor profile, which will get concentrated as it ages. So as we're waiting for our milk to heat up, we're deviating from a traditional Manchego here by adding in our Penicillium candidum as well as our Geotrichium candidum. These will work alongside our other cultures in the background, waiting for their moment to shine later on. Okay, so we passed through our 2-step stages of heating up our milk, and our cultures as well as other bacteria have had a time to do their work. So now we're going to go ahead and add in our rennet. I'm using a commonly available single strength rennet. Ultimately, make sure to follow your bottle's recommendation for curd formation if you're using a different brand or type. Make sure to dilute it in non-chlorinated water just so it doesn't hamper our rennet from actually working. I'm using well water, and it's okay to use more water than needed. It'll leach out in the way. Then we want to stir our milk around for about 30 to 40 seconds. I like to stir chaotically, so up and down, top to bottom, and back and forth. I want my curds to form evenly and throughout the milk, so no uneven curd formation here. Next, we want to cover up our pot and seal in that heat, and then set it aside in a warm area to coagulate for about 30 minutes, or until we get a soft curd break. With our milk here being a microbatch, at this point and further, you may notice that there are some differences with small batch cheese making than with large batch cheese making. With large batch cheese making, we have the thermal mass of our milk and curds that carry that stability of heat over. But with microbatch cheese making, especially as the weather cools or in a heavily air-conditioned house, our curds can cool down really too quickly. So to fix that problem, I like to put our pot in a warm water bath, and it really helps stabilize our curd temperatures, especially from dropping. I don't need it at this point, but that's just something to keep in mind for later on. Okay, so now we have our soft curd break, and what that means is we don't really have a lot of whey pooling so much on the surface of our curds. And when we're slicing our curds, it cuts easily and smoothly. With a harder curd break, as we're working through our cutting stage, it really ends up feeling more like almost cutting popping bobas, if that makes sense. So let's go ahead and start by cutting our curds into 3/4 of an inch, or about a knuckle size, of columns. We're going to cut through from the top all the way to the bottom of the pot. If you end up missing some, it's okay, we'll catch them later, but we're trying to make them into cubes. And so we're going to cut across and then let our curds heal. And then we're going to go ahead and cut again. If you're aiming for more traditional manchego, we're going to cut and heal again and repeat until they're about the size of a chickpea or corn kernel. I'm aiming for a more fresher eating cheese that's ready in under 3 months, so my cubes are a bit larger here. I'm leaning into a more brie-esque type of style. And so when cutting our curds and through our healing steps, the main aim is to keep our cheese from losing too much valuable butterfat and milk solids in our whey. You can tell that this is happening when there's some milkiness to our whey, as well as even pools of oil on the surface. That's the butterfat being lost. And we want to prevent that as much as possible. And that's why this healing step is so important. Next up, we want to heat our curds to around 102 Fahrenheit or 39 degrees Celsius over the course of 30 to 45 minutes. Our softer, larger curds may break easier, especially at first. So it's really important to try and stir gently, and then also breaking up any large clumps or columns that we didn't get down to the size that we are aiming for, which is about the size of like a knuckle, so about 1.5 to 2 centimeters. We're aiming for all of our curds to be about as similar in size to each other as possible. Just like with dicing onions or sauteing veggies, having our curds the same size helps them expel their whey at similar rates. Cooking at similar rates too. So there's a lot of overlap with other cooking skills in making cheese at home. The curds are done cooking when they feel firmish, there's a little bit of bounce. When you press or squeeze them in your hand, they'll stick together, but they can still separate out easily if you fool with it with your finger and thumb. It should smell fresh and clean, and you shouldn't be noticing any off odors with your milk or whey. If you accidentally cook your curds a little bit too long, it ends up being a drier cheese. Okay, so now our curds are ready, so let's go ahead and rest our curds to settle to the bottom of our pot and consolidate a little bit for about 5 to 15 minutes. We want to pour off our whey to just a little bit above the curd line, and this will really help in transferring them to our molds. I'm going to be reserving my whey for other recipes, but if you don't want to save your whey, that's okay. It works great in the compost heap, garden, and it also really helps chickens with their trace minerals, or helps fatten piggies if you have any. So now let's go ahead and move our curds to their mold. They've consolidated some. They're still plastic now, especially since they're still warm, so they'll readily take the form of our cheese mold. We want to press our cheese first at 15 pounds for 15 minutes, and then we want to flip, squeeze out all that whey from our cheesecloth, rewrap, and then back into our press for another 15 pounds, 15 minutes. And then repeat again at 30 pounds for about 6 hours. And for our last step, let's go ahead and salt our cheese. I really prefer to dry salt at this step rather than brine bath. This step is really important to make sure that our good molds have a really good head start to grow. So our salt discourages any of the bad molds from taking over and encourages for our salt-hardy good molds to take hold. So for our cheese, we're aiming to salt it according to its weight. So whatever you end up yielding, we want 1.5 to 2% of its weight in salt. For my cheese, I'm using around 2% of weight of salt. This ended up being about 1.5 teaspoons or 7 grams of salt that I'll need to sprinkle onto my cheese here. Okay, so now that our cheese is salted, we're going to deviate from the traditional manchego aging style. And then we're going to go off to more of the brie or semi-lactic bloomy rind style of aging conditions. I made a video on how I age my cheeses here and what kind of cheese caves I use that I'll link above, so I won't go into heavy detail on cave setup here. So what we want is for our cheese surface to dry out a bit. We're going to be flipping daily, and the temperatures are going to be around 58 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit or 14 to 18 degrees Celsius, with about 50 to 60% humidity. Really expect it to take a couple days to even a week depending on your ambient humidity of your house. But from this point on, we're treating our manchego more like a brie, a camembert, or even a croûte. So for the cheese surface, ultimately, before we start putting it into the real aging cave, we want our surface to be matte with no visible shine from moisture. If you pop it in your aging bin at this point, you can end up stifling your moldy rind. so end up mottled, patchy, or have uneven mold growth. Or even growing some mucor instead, which is a type of black, gray, raised hair mold. It's edible and is traditionally found on cheeses like the Saint Nectar, or sometimes on a natural rinded caterpillar cheese, which I'm also pronouncing wrong, I'm sorry. But these are often smoothed down right before sale. And the mucor tends to have a more earthy, it does have mushroomy, but more like cave-like flavor. Sometimes it has bitter notes as well, but we're aiming for a more brighter, lighter mushroom flavor with our bloomy rind. So once our rind is free from all excess moisture, is more matte, not shiny, let's go ahead and pop our cheese onto our aging mats and then off to our higher moisture aging cave. Make sure to continually flip the cheese a minimum of once or twice a day. The change in mold growth can really happen super fast, so it's really important to be flexible and adjust. So at first you may notice a fresh, yeasty smell. Continue flipping daily. At this point, adjust your humidity and temperature to make sure to stay in that ideal range of about 52 to 54 degrees Fahrenheit or 11 to 12 degrees Celsius. The geos do tend to favor a warmer end on this temp range, and to produce a more toadskin effect on your rinds, these molds can grow really fast. So if you notice your rinds wrinkling up a lot, or perhaps even slipping a little, it can be off-putting the first time you experience it, but this is called slipskin, and it's a normal side effect of a really aggressive geomold. It's getting a little bit too busy, it's working really hard, but if you catch it early on, you can stop the rind from ripping or falling off, which could be shocking the first time you see that happen. So to fix that, lower your humidity, lower your temperatures, and your rinds will tighten back up and continue growing that beautiful mold. They'll also continue to wrinkle up as it loses its moisture and shrinks. But if you prefer a smoother, more classically brie rind, try to aim your aging at the much cooler end of the spectrum. This is a trickier cheese to make, and there's a lot of micro adjustments, especially if you're aging based on vibes or ooga booga tech. So it's definitely a tricky process. But after a few days, you may notice that the rind is starting to develop that beautiful white fluffy coat. And that fluff is a good sign. That's a sign that your white molds are healthy and growing. But if that fluffiness bothers you, you can pat it down gently, rub it into the rind, or even brush it off. I tend to let mine grow, and once that white mold coats the rind fully, I pop that cheese off to the mini fridge or house fridge, which is around 42 degrees Fahrenheit or 5 degrees Celsius. This causes it to age slower, mellow out, so then we get our beautiful nuttiness from that manchego, but also hints of mushroom from our rind. Some things to watch out for particularly is that the white molds do grow fast. And if you're like me and forget to flip twice a day, you may end up ripping a bit of the rind as it grows into the base. Sometimes this is okay, especially when the rind is young and there's still a chance for it to take over. But other times it opens up the invitation for other molds to set up shop. To prevent this, increase your flipping. Even lifting up and placing the cheese back down is enough. With smaller wheels or pucks, they're also more prone to drying out, so make sure to watch those cracks forming, which means that it's too dry. Blue molds also have a tendency to get in those cracks, which is fine if you want blue, but we're focusing on white molds for today. So make sure to routinely check your cheeses. If you find your baby wheels just turning into rinds, it helps to raise your humidity to slow that down and change the shape of your cheeses to a more compact form rather than all surface area. Remember that the healthy mold should be white, soft, preferably even coating, not slimy, off-colored. It should smell earthy and fresh and even mushroomy, not sour or musty or barny. Any unexpected colors like black or dark red mold can be a sign of an unwelcome friend taking hold of our cheese. Ideally, we're aiming for a cloud white coating of mushroomy flavored fluff, but the most common visitors are blue, green, and gray molds, and they can change the flavor of the rind. So ultimately, it's up to you on what the line is for what to trim, what to toss, or what to eat. And ultimately, the best practice is if you're worried about it, don't eat it. Okay, and some extra things I didn't mention are when it comes to mold cultures, there's a lot of strands. Some geos are more aggressive and hardy than others, and the same with Canadians or even the other mold types of blues or bean linens. The different strands can also affect the flavor of the rind texture, as well as the cheese paste or interior texture, and other subtle flavor notes. Usually the manufacturer has a guidebook outline on what to expect, as well as tips for each culture or mold. I'll have a guide popped up here, but a good general thumb in growing the molds: for a more wrinkly rind, aim warmer. And for a more brie smooth rind, say in the cooler range, so below 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 12 degrees Celsius, and lower humidity between 80 to 90% humidity. The geos prefer a little bit warmer and a little bit more humid. I think that should get you going pretty well. There's a lot of variables to juggle in this recipe, but once you get the hang of one, it snowballs to the other recipes too. And if there's one thing I want you to take away, is that it may take a bit of practice, but it helps to go slow, take notes. I have a free downloadable cheese log in my shop so that you can take notes easier if you want. So I'm hoping to see your creations in the coming months. And let me know what your favorite molds are below. Do you prefer to eat your moldy cheeses grilled, or sliced with a bit of bread and toppings, or tossed with some pasta for a not so mushroomy sauce? If you've made it this far, an extra special thank you. I appreciate you. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you never miss a sheepy take. Thank you so much for watching, and here's a send off from the vlog. Ta-tas!